player in a given season that is in your favorite team sport.
Oh. Talking
No,
about
obviously, I don't
harm
expect you
in
to actually
sports.
answer that. It's a weird question to have to answer. And if you did, in fact, answer with a number anything other than 0, I mean, you might be kind of weird too. But to already break the fourth wall to the point of this video here, injuries are weird. Because as much as we'd all love to give the answer none, no injuries whatsoever, and to never have to worry about them again, we all intuitively know that that is unrealistic and probably unobtainable. Because injuries, to some extent, are unavoidable. But to what extent exactly, though? That's a good early follow-up question in this injury conversation here, because while we all capably grasp that the concept of injury-free sports is unrealistic and idealistic, we all do simultaneously understand that injuries are a phenomenon in sports that can still be reduced, that there is plenty of room for progress here, indisputably. So how much progress is there to make? And at what point could that progress stop? When could we call it a day and say that we've done all that we can, that the rest is in the Lord's hands? I'm talking real big picture here. Sports in the year 2200 here or something. This is where some classification has to come in, I think, because not every injury is made the same. And while that's something that we all know, that is something we all forget, I think, when using that all-encompassing, semi-taboo word here, injury, to describe mechanical problems in our own bodies or in the bodies of our favorite athletes. So how do we do that? Again, to me, the most important classification here, well, it's actually the most simple and common. In my book, and again, this is just my book, the two types of in-game sports injuries are contact injuries, human-inflicted injuries, and non-contact injuries. Incidental injuries of some sort, maybe a product of wear and tear, maybe a product of bad luck. Human-inflicted and non-human-inflicted injuries. And I mean, you knew that. That's not groundbreaking here. In fact, maybe you invoked those two terms, contact and non-contact, in response to my initial question in this video, or alluded to them, at least, saying something along the lines of, well, what kind of injuries? That would have been smart of you. And I mean, that would have been smart of you because it's ultimately the guiding question behind the future of progress when it comes to injury prevention here. What kind of injuries are we really trying to stop? And more importantly, more absurdly, kinda, which ones are we actually okay with? Which ones did we include in the fine print when we asked you, the viewer, to sign on to being a fan of our sport? That's the real discussion to be had. What lines do we draw and where in relation to the human experience itself in the games that we play? What are we okay with? What harm and degeneration are we okay with? What do we accept? What damage taken do we accept? And why? Take football, for example, my favorite sport. Much like MMA, UFC, boxing, combat sports, injuries to many in the game of football might almost classify as a feature rather than a bug. Contact injuries, that is. One of the rare team sports where that is the case. Football is a violent game. No matter your size, no matter your agility, you must have a certain level of aggression and physicality ingrained in you to play the real thing. The 11-on-11 tackle thing, not the flag thing or the 7-on-7 thing. The things that people often fear the sport will devolve into, a fear that, again, is grounded in the feeling that football is a violent sport. Violent within reason. Though. Now, we recognize that our human bodies have limits, right, when it comes to football. That certain kinds of moves, certain kinds of attacks are unacceptable and unsustainable. Spearing, eye-poking, biting. I mean, some things just go without saying. And other things we've recently learned need to go without saying. And to say what goes without saying, I guess I'd put it like this. Definition time, get ready. Violence in football, inflicted harm in the game of football, is permitted, accepted, so long as the receiving party was capable of avoiding said harm, so cheap shots are not allowed, and so long as said harm does not significantly threaten one's well-being as a human individual long-term. In other words, beyond their playing career. So like spinal injuries, excessive concussions, again, like eye poking or whatever. That's my definition of permitted, accepted violence, harm, inflicted by other humans in the sport. And honestly, just conveying that concept, permitted, accepted violence, harm, it's more important than the specifics of the definition here. So let me know how you might tweak it if you want in the comments. Either way, bottom line here, back to that grounding injury question, what progress are we really looking to make and how much can we realistically make related to injury class? In the game of football, I'd put it like this. Contact injuries, human-inflicted harm, is accepted within reason. And kind of like real-world violence, real-world combat, our working definition of what is reasonable is guided by rules. Rules birthed by ethics. Consensus on ethics. I guess that means like Vontaze Burfict is the NFL equivalent of a war criminal or something. Ethics and rules help us make sense of people directly harming other people in our games and in our world. But non-contact injuries, the non-human harm stuff, well, that's where things get interesting here, because it's simultaneously the most nuanced and also the most black and white part of this discussion. Because on one hand, non-contact harm, it's gotta go. It has to. There's no justifiable reason for it to exist in our game. ACLs taken by the turf monster, wear and tear injuries improperly diagnosed pregame. I mean, when we're not getting violent, there would ideally be no such thing as an in-game injury in football. Because it's all just running gear, right? And sure, currently out of games, we do accept that wear and tear, aging buildup happens, and that our athletes are never truly 100%. That's idealistic, right? And we recognize that medical progress seeks to minimize and mitigate the issues that might cause a player to miss a game. But again, in a perfect futuristic world, non-contact injuries, non-human inflicted harm taken, it shouldn't happen among playing players. The goal here, injury goal here, in a football utopia, is to enter every football game knowing exactly how likely a player may be to receive a non-contact injury, given their movement styles, given the state of their body, given environmental conditions. The goal is to have a player know that, thanks to medical and scientific progress, to consent to that, to whatever risk they may be taking, and for them to then be healthy and willing enough to play the game itself. That, I believe, is the goal for players, for fans, for doctors, for the league, and for the world alike when it comes to non-contact injuries, non-contact harm, in relation to contact injuries, human-inflicted stuff in the game of football. A logical system, I dare say. One that mirrors our perspectives on human-induced and non-human-induced harm in the real world, kinda. Non-contact injuries are already less of a thing in the sport of football than ever before. Contact injuries, too, are being minimized by the year, and the product remains quite entertaining in the meantime, less to complain about than ever before, right? More advancements. It's kind of like the sporting world equivalent of human life expectancy going up in the real world or something. Controlling the chaos, one medical and ethical innovation at a time. That's great. And in football specifically, because of the nature of the sport, roster size, fine print in relation to human-inflicted violence in our viewership contracts, we rarely find ourselves complaining about and centering our discussions around injuries anyhow, harm anyhow. It's rarely the story of a game or of a season. Football is grounding, gritty, military affairs, the sport, if you will. Not much room for idealism here. Maybe that's why it appeals to so many people. I don't know. But it is worth acknowledging now, at this point in this injury video, that sports don't have to be violent. Games don't. The world doesn't. And a lot of games and places in this world already aren't. And in relatively peaceful times, or peaceful games, well, our conversations about harm and acceptability become different too. Our standards rightfully change. Our attention rightfully shifts. There's a big reason I've got injuries on my mind. Non-contact injuries and harm on my mind, to be specific. The future of harm prevention on my mind. Harm in relation to the future of player consent on my mind. These big picture thoughts on harm infliction, where it comes from, and how it's stopped on my mind. All of it. Let's compare sporting systems now. Let's talk about basketball. So, basketball. It's pretty simple in football. In-game contact injuries, in-game human-inflicted harm, it must be regulated. And in-game non-contact injuries, non-human inflicted harm, it should be minimized. It needs to be minimized as much as possible until someday it may be eradicated. The big stuff eradicated, at least, like the season-ending stuff, the career-altering stuff, that is. There's no reason for that, really. And if there is a reason for that, well, that's what we hope to understand and eliminate, right? But what about basketball? See, basketball to me is weirder, and weirder in a way worth articulating. And let's start with the obvious here, the aforementioned contact part, the human-inflicted violence part. Contact in basketball is heavily regulated, and contact injuries are not really supposed to be a part of the sport. And sure, certain types of contact injuries can never be fully eliminated from a game like this. Incidental contact, think rolling your ankle on the defender's foot, an awkward collision. But in terms of injuries produced by intentional human-inflicted contact, intentional harm, the NBA would prefer that that total be zero. That's why we have fouls and flagrant fouls and fines. The NFL system, the NFL society, accepts violence as a part of its nature, as a part of the human experience, and the NBA does not. Not really. A pacifist, more civilized sport. Players attack the rim, defenders attack the ball. People don't really attack people, though. That's not in the social contract here. So cool. We're going for world peace, the sport. An elevated standard, higher life expectancies, career lengths in turn, more harmony maybe among the league's citizens as a result of less direct conflict. But what about non-contact stuff? The in-game non-contact stuff, that is. Harm experienced that is not inflicted by people. Well, I think it goes without saying that the NBA seeks to eliminate that too. At least I think. I mean, yeah, in terms of the non-contact aspect of this game, basketball is a lot more physically demanding than football in some ways. 1,400 miles of cardio per team per season these days, more on that in a second. Games that occur much more frequently, rapid pivots, explosions, high jumps, a much harder surface that the game is played upon. But in terms of the league that the players and staffs would like to create, the world, the goal is still to eliminate non-contact injuries altogether. The meaningful ones, again. 2, if I may paraphrase from my NFL section, enter every basketball game knowing exactly how likely a player may be to receive a major non-contact injury, given their movement style, given the state of their body. The goal is to have a player know that, consent to that, and for them to then be healthy and willing enough to play the game. Much like football, that's the goal here. No matter the stance that a given sporting system may take on human-inflicted harm, all systems seem to take the same stance on non-human inflicted harm. Conquer non-contact injuries. That's kind of the goal of medicine in every team sport, right? And once more, that seems to parallel the point of medical innovation in the real world too. To develop such an advanced and intricate understanding of the game or world around us that we have learned how to keep our bodies safe, sound, and able to play the game until we are simply too old to go on, with only Father Time being our master. To me, and I think to all of us, non-contact injuries, non-human incidental harm, is the enemy because non-contact injuries represent chaos, a conceptual emblem of the final frontier here for us as people in terms of innovation, what we can control, what we believe we control, what we want to control. In the current moment, they represent chance, the unpredictable, and again, at least for now, the unbeatable. That's what makes them taboo. That's what makes them weird to discuss, impolite to predict, only worth acknowledging in post with a sense of mourning. Because where we're at, as we stand, as we sit right now, we've yet to solve them. And so they taunt us. They linger over us, a looming reminder that our game is only a game, and that we are disposable, temporary actors in this thing. That its constraints, its laws, its levers are not entirely within our control, within our reach. The cruel indifference of the universe, the absurdity of it all. That's why non-contact injuries suck. We as human beings yearn for progress here, for victory, for knowledge and all that accompanies it, the survival and endurance of our species. And we've outlined, at least I've tried to outline, what the ideal future landscape utopia looks like. To some extent, we all believe in our ability to someday win here, with the right technology and properly equipped individuals. I mean, that's why we keep pushing forward. That sixth sense that we all have for a finish line that may not be completely reached, but can certainly be neared. It's a realm of forms, a realm of idealism, but one that we can borrow from in our projections for the future here. That's hope. But in our pursuit of perfection, we might have to acknowledge a couple of glaring hypotheticals. Hypothetical, persisting problems, the sorts of problems that ground us and remind us that the realm of idealism only exists in our heads, and that the real world is always significantly messier. Say, for example, at some point in the future, we've got this superstar. A superstar on one of the best teams in basketball, a team that hasn't won the finals in a while. And this year his team's going deep, real deep. I'm talking Game 7 deep, Game 7 of the finals deep. And the problem here is that our superstar has this nagging injury. One that's never completely sidelined him, but one that's persisted here, even though we have advanced our progress medicinally quite a bit. This is the kind of injury with serious long-term implications if it worsens, and the kind that has already historically been known to alter franchises and careers when it worsens. What happens when our superstar here, hypothetically, is looking to make history, and he's looking to do it in the face of this risk?
Right.
And the problem here, the timeless problem, the reason that this hypothetical is relevant, necessary, and likely to persist is because as long as humans play sports, as long as there is a human element to sports, well, the games themselves, they cannot be automated. They cannot be cured, so to speak. No matter what progress we have or have not made on the side out of games here, no matter how good we are at, say, calculating the risk that our superstar is going to take, at the end of the day, we have to ask ourselves, what happens when risks persist in the games themselves? And we have to consent to those risks. We want to consent to those risks because playing the game is that important.
A couple days.
What happens then?
Damage,
because at this point, we're not playing a numbers game anymore. I mean, our idealistic fantasy, it's gone. And the real world doesn't care for it much anyhow. Because, again, in this hypothetical, even if we knew exactly how likely this player was to make things worse, well, what happens when those calculations don't matter? What happens when our players consent? And what happens then when disaster still strikes, even in a near-perfect world? Is there a category of harm, simply put, some obscure, absurd part of the human experience that cannot be prevented? Is there a degree of control here that we will never have, regardless of knowledge and progress out of games?
It's more crit
In
rate.
other words, what types of risks are inherent to the human experience? To what degree must we accept our own
It's the same
futility,
amount of crit
our
rate.
mortality here? That, to me, is the final question. Tyrese Halliburton's injury was a tragedy in all of the ways that non-contact injuries tend to be, and then some. Add salt in the wound considering the stakes, add salt in the wound considering the person, add salt in the wound considering the long-term implications, and again add salt in the wound considering the timelessness of this predicament.
What's up, everybody? This is the Cartman here, and today we're talking about South Park because this is a series I have loved for a long time, and they have finally returned after 2.5 years, I think, of not producing new episodes. But their newest episode, titled Sermon on the Mount, the first episode they made and produced under their new contract with Paramount, has sent out some shockwaves, to say the least.
Did you anticipate the reaction today? Have you been following it? What do you make of it?
We're terribly sorry.
So I love South Park, and I really wanted to talk about this episode, but this is kind of new territory for me. I don't typically talk about TV shows on my channel, so I have invited the local resident South Park expert, the one, the only, Blooms, to have a discussion with me about this new South Park episode. Blooms, how are you doing today?
I'm doing absolutely wonderful. I'm ready to talk about some South Park, Actman.
Really? You talk about South Park?
I know it's shocking, but
Who could have foreseen this? You want to tell my audience a little bit about yourself, your channel, what you do?
so hello, my name is Blooms. You may know me as the South Park guy, as at least that's what I am often referred to as. I make videos about South Park. That's pretty much it. I have some other videos, but those don't do as well, so I mostly just talk about South Park.
We're all pigeonholed into something, right?
Everyone was a slave to something.
I figure, let's get the South Park guy on here because I have some thoughts on this episode and I wanted to tackle it in a way that's a bit different than what other people are doing. This is the interesting thing about South Park is like whatever they cover almost always causes some kind of controversy, but that amount of controversy differs. But you always have like one side of people who's like, hell yeah, this validates my beliefs, haha, and then they point to the group that South Park is making fun of. When the group that South Park is making fun of is like, I thought this show was supposed to be on my team.
It's always people thinking the show's agreeing with them and people who think the show is disagreeing with them, and generally they're both wrong. So that tends to be the case.
Yeah, so I have some theories, and I think the direction of this video is going to be more about South Park fans that don't really understand South Park.
And we were just like, you don't understand. That's so anti-South Park. You don't do that. Please don't do that.
What the show is really about and what its creators are, what the goals of Matt and Trey really are at the end of the day. When you boil down South Park to its absolute core, what is it?
Well, technically, I'm supposed to be Stan and Matt's supposed to be Kyle. That's sort of where it all started, was like Stan was the little me and Kyle was the little Matt. But as the further we go along, we realize we're really both more Cartman.
Yeah, just big fat bastards.
Yeah.
But Blooms, I want to get your thoughts on Sermon on the Mount. Do you think it was a return to form?
I think it absolutely was a return to form. I think this is probably one of the best episodes they've made in, I would say, minimum a decade, probably more. This is like satire on another level in the sense that it is so many layers deeper than people think it is.
I just need a couple of things, and then I'm gonna head back to Iran.
I thought you were from Iraq.
Iran, Iraq, what the hell's the difference? Relax, guy. Come on, you don't want me to bomb you like I did Iraq.
I thought you just bombed Iran.
Iran, Iraq, what the hell's the difference? Relax, guy.
Okay, so while editing this clip, I realized that both of these lines are literally the exact same. They didn't even re-record this. They went back to season 2, 27 years ago, just to reuse this joke.
I thought you just bombed Iran.
Iran, Iraq, what the hell's the difference? Relax, guy.
Matt and Trey are on another level.
The context behind all of this and what they're doing is like one of the most ballsy things I've ever seen like anyone do, and especially in the show business, to take the money they did from Paramount and then immediately go after essentially their Achilles heel with Donald Trump and all the shit they've been dealing with him. So it is insane, and it's one of the craziest things they've done, in my opinion.
I absolutely agree. Like, I think this is one of the best South Park episodes of all time. Maybe we have recency bias right now, but I think this is another one of those episodes, kind of like Cartoon Wars Part 1 and 2, 200, was it 200 and 201?
201, yes. Trapped in the Closet, Scientology.
Trapped in the Closet, Scientology, you know, Sue Me.
Well, go on then, sue me.
We're going to.
Do it. I'm not scared of you. Sue me.
Either it's all okay or none of it is.
If you don't show Muhammad, then you've made a distinction between what is okay to poke fun at and what isn't. Either it's all okay or none of it is. Ah, I'll fucking sue you.
Kind of these issues that really define the core of South Park, which is being able to say whatever the fuck you want, being able to piss people off and entertain everyone.
Throughout this whole ordeal, we've all wanted to show things that we weren't allowed to show. But it wasn't because of some magic goo. It was because of the magical power of threatening people with violence. That's obviously the only true power.
I think that's what South Park's really about, and this is kind of like another entry in that style of episode.
100%. That's something I kind of say in my video, is that this is like the most South Park thing they've ever done. I feel like this is like the defining episode of South Park, kind of like it feels like it's all kind of led up to this moment.
Nobody makes fun of me and gets away with it.
Yeah, do you want to describe basically like the context of the episode with Paramount and all that? Like I do understand it, but yeah, you already made a video, so like you're sharp. Okay, so this is the part where Blooms attempted to describe the situation and context behind this episode, but his summary ended up being, well, about 15 minutes. So if you're curious, I would say just watch his video. It will be linked in the description. And that way we can make this video shorter. Hooray! So the episode Sermon on the Mount, while on the surface it seems like, oh, this is just a dig at Trump, and these jokes are so juvenile, they're saying his penis is small and, you know, I'm gonna sue you. But if you don't know all of this context behind South Park's new contract with Paramount, what they're really doing is trying to piss off Trump and the White House as a sort of revenge against Paramount for all the shit they were going through trying to get this deal figured out so they could produce the show.
Exactly. So they were incredibly pissed off at Paramount. They've a lot of people don't know this either, because this was one of the Paramount specials that they made, but they had a 2-part Streaming Wars special, which was all about Paramount Plus and how much they hate it and trying to deal with this lawsuit that was going on.
Ah, they don't give a fuck, Kyle. Well, they're gonna take everything they can get. Everyone knows at the end of the day, there's only going to be like 3 streaming services, so then like everyone just wants to have their shit on their stream and get bought out, you know? And they don't give a fuck how good anything is.
This was like, I want to say 2 years ago now. So they did this already. They have already shown that they were mad at Paramount Plus, and that was before all of this crazy shit would happen with the merger and all that. So they do not like Paramount Plus, and this was basically all a way to get a rise. This is rage bait. They were rage baiting Trump to get him to be mad at Paramount again and basically ruin any of the good graces that they just made with Trump.
Right. And I think the big point, right? Because there's clips when you know Jesus comes back and he's like, eat the bread. You want to end up like Colbert?
The guy can do whatever he wants now that someone back down, okay? Eat the bread.
Because when Matt and Trey talk,
Let someone back down, okay? Eat the bread.
because when Matt and Trey talk about how they come up with dialogue, plot for episodes, what they'll often do is include arguments and discussions they have in the writer's room. And so to me, that clip of Jesus like talking through gritted teeth, it almost sounds like that's what someone was saying to Matt and
Someone
Trey.
was telling them,
Yeah.
just shut up, don't talk about it, basically. 100%.
Whether you like Colbert or not, personally, I did like him more on the Colbert Report, but I'm also kind of nostalgic about when him and Jon Stewart were both on there. I felt like it was maybe funnier, but I think whether or not you like Stephen Colbert or not, what this whole thing appears to be is like cracking down on free speech.
All right, then I'm gonna sue your whole town. You got that? $5 billion.
Cracking down on the press, cracking down on speech that offends the president, right? And so he's using his position and weaponizing it to basically, you know, say, hey, I don't like this guy, you know, take him off the air.
Get this guy out of here. I'm gonna sue you. I'm gonna sue both of you.
If you know anything about Matt and Trey, they're big fans of censorship, right?
Love it. They love censorship.
They love it. So on the surface, this is making fun of Trump and this is making fun of American culture and where America is at this point. But it's really like the bigger issue is, are we even going to be able to make South Park anymore? If we can't make fun of the president, if Stephen Colbert gets shut down for making fun of the president, are we next?
Yeah. 100%. Like in the episode, there's a whole subplot with Cartman. He gives up on life because woke is dead, so he has no one to piss off anymore, so he can't be a pest to people.
I'm not special anymore. So what's the point in me even existing?
He has a whole subplot where him and Butters try to kill themselves by going into Butters' garage and leaving the car on. And the way I read that is that this is basically Matt and Trey. This is their suicide attempt. They're saying this could be it, you know, like they're saying we don't even know if we're going to continue from here.
Oh, I think I might be going.
Yep, sweet death is about to come. I love you, man.
Who knows? And I think it's kind of beautiful in that way.
Yeah, it's like a suicide pact. I mean, Cartman saying "I love you, man" to Butters, especially knowing all the like shit they've gone through together.
Butters!
Mostly shit Cartman has, done to Butters, and but Butters is still kind of there for him, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, let's touch on that a bit, right? The whole woke is dead.
I think I know what's happening. I think woke is dead.
Woke is dead?
It's dead, Butters. It's gone.
This does feel like a swan song type of episode, or at least it could potentially be. A lot of Cartman's antics have been normalized and kind of like accepted. So what role does the show have anymore if it's not satire anymore, if it's real life, right?
Yes,
I think about
100%.
like a couple weeks ago, Elon Musk did some tweaks to the Grok AI and it just immediately started referring to itself as Mecha Hitler, right? Like that's real life. That's the plot of a South Park episode. That's something Cartman
100%.
would do. Like
literally
tweak the AI to be anti-Semitic.
To be Hitler. Yeah. 100%, definitely.
Here's like the big question is like, and I think it's the question South Park is asking itself right now. how do we continue satirizing what is already the most absurd real life scenarios?
And I think that's something that they've had to deal with already in the first Trump administration, which is why season 20, that was the season where Trump gets elected, that was an absolute shit show, probably the worst season of the entire show. And it was because they're trying to make fun of Trump, but it's one of those things where it's like, how do you make fun of him? He is already such a character. He's so absurd. He's so out there. Like, satire doesn't work because he already is a satire of politics and American politics specifically. So that question comes up in this case, especially now that it seems like it's even more insane than it was back then.
Yeah.
And I think that their approach in this episode of literally just going full juvenile, like absurdist, cartoon-esque stuff, I think that is honestly a better approach because it's just funny. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like comedic, and they're not focusing too much on trying to make a point or trying to say something about it like they were in the past. It's just, let's just point and laugh at him, basically. That's literally all it is. It's like so simple, and I think that's kind of the only way that you can even do something like that effectively.
Yeah, they went like full caricature, and I do want to say I love the whole cutout head, different getting different faces, because it's so expressive and funny, and it stands out from like anything anyone else does. And Matt and Trey
100%.
really haven't done that for a long time, right?
No, I think the last one was Saddam.
Hey, that looks like Saddam Hussein.
Saddam Hussein? Ah, relax, Betty. I'm not him.
I know they've done like the cutout, like they did it for what's his name, Mel Gibson. I know they did it for.
They actually, in one of the Christmas episodes, I think it might be season 3, they had Hitler like singing Tannenbaum
there's a bunch of
in
them.
hell.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them in that episode down there.
Hey, Hitler, what's the matter, little guy?
They would either use it for someone who is like completely insane, or they'd use it in their horror episodes.
The following program is brought to you in Spooky Vision. Be warned, all scenes will be accompanied by pictures of Barbra Streisand.
Barbra Streisand, the Spooky Vision, yeah.
And then there's that other one where they all get Ritalin, and Carmen starts seeing like little Christina Aguilera monsters.
Christina Aguilera monsters, yes.
Just the way Trump moves in this episode, and like his face, because they used pictures of his like mugshot, which I thought was really funny. That. And they just gave him the exact same voice as Saddam Hussein. There's like this one part, the way he talks is so fucking funny, but he like snuggles up and he's just like, "Give me again." Like you almost can't understand what he's saying.
And I honestly think this is more just from like a lore perspective. I honestly think it is actually Saddam Hussein, and he's just wearing a disguise, because last time we saw him, he basically did that exact same thing as the Prime Minister of Canada. So I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they revealed that it actually is just Saddam Hussein in a disguise. But
I can change, I can change. I can learn to keep my promises, I swear it. I'll open up my heart and I will share it. Any minute now I will be born again. A dictator from the Middle East? Hey, relax, guy. I'm just your average Joe. Take a rest.
Well, and what was really surprising was that they did a Comic-Con panel and they said, oh yeah, that trailer that we released where we had like a bunch of stuff done, like it seemed like, that was all fake. We just made that for the trailer. Like we didn't have anything done. We got in there and started making episodes like a week ago. So,
which is kind of crazy, because I recently watched that trailer, and if you haven't seen it, it's pretty good. It shows like French Canadians.
Some stuff I still want to see. Yeah,
it shows like Butters as an air traffic controller, which
and like all the planes crashing. It has like Starvin' Marvin makes a return with P. Diddy. It's like so stupid. I kind of want to see that, but I don't know. Maybe they'll come back to it.
I want to see that. Are you kidding me? Like P. Diddy, cover it all. I hope it's not just all American politics.
Yeah,
I hope that, because there has been a lot of stuff. They should make a Diddy episode,
especially now that like with the updates on the trial. I think it would make for something interesting.
So I think now we should transition to the real meat of this video, which is why South Park works, how some people and some fans don't really understand it, and what the true intentions of Matt and Trey are, right? Now, the thing that makes South Park work, in my opinion, or at least part of it, is it being political is incidental. If you watch Stephen Colbert, you know what you're getting, right? You're getting left-wing politics from Stephen Colbert. If you watch Ben Shapiro, you know exactly what you're getting. You're getting right-wing politics. The nice thing about South Park is that you don't always know what you're gonna get. And that's part of the entertainment for me, at least, is both of these two guys have their own agendas. They're part of a bigger picture, and you already know that whenever you click on a video or watch an episode.
Definitely.
With South Park, you don't know exactly how they're going to cover something.
100%. And I think what a lot of people don't realize about South Park, I think a lot of people think they're trying to say something first, like that's their goal, is to make a statement or to make a point. But I think what people don't realize is that when Matt and Trey are writing an episode of South Park, and they've talked about this before, their number one priority is comedy. They're trying to make something funny. If they're offensive, if they piss people off, if they make a statement in doing that, that is incidental, as you said. It all comes with it, and that's why South Park is so good, because they really don't care that much about making a point or making a statement. They end up doing it most of the time, but their number one priority is to make people laugh. So that's the thing, is like people think that South Park is trying to be political, and I think that in the past they have kind of done that, like with the later seasons, like season 20 to 22-ish, like that time frame. I think they kind of got caught up in that, almost, of like, we need to say something about this rather than we need to make something funny, you know?
Right. Which is the right way to look at things, I think. And
exactly,
I think for people that are upset about this episode or upset about previous episodes, or they feel like they're being targeted by South Park and Matt and Trey, what you have to understand about Matt and Trey and South Park is that they essentially have one trick, and if you can sniff it out, you'll be okay. Matt and Trey, at their heart, they are god tier level trolls. All right. That is what they are. It's like they do this shit for their own amusement. Think of the balls it takes to accept a $1.5 billion contract and then say, yeah, screw you.
Yeah.
You know, we're still going to say what we want to say. That's the whole point, right?
100%.
You think about when they went to the Oscars and they did acid and put these dresses on, and they were like talking about how to troll Hollywood, and you know, there was one clip where he's like, okay, and if they ask about the dresses, just don't address it at all.
Such a beautiful evening. You just have to say, such a beautiful evening.
There's so much magic in the air. I was watching through that.
We said we can't say anything about the dresses.
Nothing about the dresses.
No matter what they ask
everyone
us,
would go,
don't say
guys,
anything.
what about the dresses? Why the dresses? And we go, magical night tonight. Just all the stars are out.
Is that why you're in the dress? It's just such a magical evening, and everyone looks so spectacular. You know, we just wanted to be a part of it all.
It's a night of magic.
You know, South Park and Matt and Trey, they dunk on Hollywood, celebrities, people they think are fake or phony. They make fun of extremism, and if that happens to be tied to some political ideology, then that's what it is.
Yeah. I made a whole video about this idea that has kind of sprouted up relatively recently, and this is more of kind of the liberals' reason to hate South Park. It's like there's different reasons that people give for hating South Park depending on what side of what side they're on. And with liberals, I've noticed a lot of time, because they know that it's not an anti-liberal show per se, they'll do this idea that, oh, South Park made it cool to not care. They made apathy popular. They made it like, oh, we're too cool to care about anything kind of thing. My point in saying this is that I made a whole video talking about that idea of South Park made it cool to not care, and showing why that's not really the truth. They actually do care about a lot of stuff. They're not making fun of people for caring about things, as people often think. They're making fun of people who are extreme in their beliefs, or annoying about the way they care about things, and that kind of stuff.
Or care too much.
Care too much, exactly.
Yeah.
People who pretend to care, that's another really big one. Pretending to care about things, performing, like performance activism, all that kind of stuff. That's kind of the core of South Park. And, you know, people think South Park is attacking them when they attack something like that, but they're not necessarily attacking a movement. They're attacking the people. They're attacking how people treat this movement. And I think even with Trump, it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, it's all just like critique of culture and making fun of people, making fun of themselves, making fun of Americans, like, and I feel like that's necessary in any functioning society, is being able to laugh at yourself. You know, when South Park made the World of Warcraft episode, and it just portrayed gamers as, like, you know, fat losers sitting in their mom's basement, literally, like, as a kid, and even now, like, I never got offended. I was playing World of Warcraft back then.
Yeah.
But I never, watching that episode, I never felt like, oh, my identity is under attack. It was like, no, they got that right.
That is like arguably the most popular episode of South Park. Gamers love that episode. So it's like, you just roll with the punches with South Park. Like, just don't take it too seriously. It's comedy at the end of the day. Even if they're trying to say something, it's a joke, you know? Like, it's not, it just isn't that serious.
Well, that's their one trick, is that I feel like Matt and Trey, when they make an episode, they want to get a reaction. They if they can rage bait a reaction, that's what they're looking for.
Well, and the whole show is just like you said, it's all for Matt and Trey. It's like, what do they think is funny? And it's like, if other people find it funny, then good. But at the end of the day, they're entertaining themselves, kind of just throwing the middle finger to everyone around them. It's like even the end of season 1, where they leave it on a cliffhanger at trying to figure out who Cartman's dad is, and then the very first episode of the next season is a Terrence and Phillip special. It's just like arguably one of the worst episodes in the show, and everyone,
it's actually really funny though.
It's funny. I like it.
They trolled their own audience, bro.
Yeah,
I mean, people
was
waited.
Totally pissed about that. People were waiting for so long. They got like thousands of like calls to Comedy Central complaining about it, and they thought it was the funniest thing ever because they literally just gave a middle finger to their audience.
Yeah, which I think takes balls, and I think that's what makes the show special. And the fact that $1.5 billion didn't change that at all, I think, speaks to the soul.
What I was gonna say is, I think that ironically it has only strengthened that in them. I feel like they're like, okay, we have fuck you money now, so we'll tell you, go fuck yourself, basically. Like, we can say whatever we want to anyone we want. What are they gonna do, take us off air? Yeah, right, they've tried that a million times in the past. It's like nothing's ever gonna take down South Park at this point. So I think they're kind of
so we hope,
yeah. Maybe the president of the United States could take down South Park if he wanted, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, they did rage bait the White House into making a response, which was really funny. Yes. Again, probably like they read it and were laughing to themselves, right?
I know.
The White House said, it's a fourth-rate show. It hasn't been relevant in 20 years. And I remember I posted something where I was like, it's so irrelevant that someone thinks it's worth $1.5 billion.
1.5 billion, yeah, literally. Yeah. And I think that just shows that this episode basically did everything they wanted it to. Obviously, the merger went through with Paramount and all that, and I don't think in reality they thought that it was going to stop that or anything like that. That would have been absolutely insane if it did. I think they were just basically trying to rage bait Trump, and I think it worked. Basically, they got a response out of him, and now that they have responded, I guarantee you there's going to be more of this to kind of continue to provoke him. Also, at the end of the episode, they're doing pro-Trump messaging now. It says 1 of 50. And there's 50 new episodes like total that they've signed up for. So in theory, it seems like they might make one of those for every single episode, which would be kind of hilarious.
Which would be amazing. And that's just like, there's so much to this episode. There's so much to talk about South Park. I almost forgot about that advert.
Yeah.
And which is funny because it's like a deep fake of Trump walking through the desert, and he keeps taking his clothes off, and it's treated as like this heroic, like he walked through the desert for you.
It's like Jesus-esque.
Yeah, and it comes off the heels of the administration like not wanting to regulate AI. It's so kind of is like, are you sure you want to do that? Because this is, if you don't, I mean, we got 50 more of these in the chamber.
Yeah, that's something I saw people talking about. Is like literally the day that the episode came out, Trump signed a bill for even less regulation on it. Essentially, I don't know if that's true. I
think I saw something about that, but it's like
that's what people were saying. Was it the bill he signed was essentially less regulation on AI? So it's like, it's pretty funny that right when they did that,
the creators have demonstrated in their ability to switch gears when necessary to cover a topic that sprouts up. They've shown that they can basically scrap an entire episode and make an entire new episode in about 6 days. As far as timing of any episode in the show's history, I think the timing on this one absolutely perfect.
Yeah,
it could not be more perfect in any way, shape, or form.
I think that's really what made it so insane. Is it was just such perfect timing with like everything going on with the merger, like about to be settled and all that. It literally could not have been better than that.
To kind of wrap up this discussion, if you boil South Park down to its core, the show is counterculture. That's what it really is.
Yes.
Even going as far back to the initial first pilot or episode, The Spirit of Christmas, and the idea behind that. Let's take two of the most like benevolent, positive figures, icons in American culture, Santa and Jesus, and let's have them beat the shit out of each other, right?
Yes,
Even just
yes.
that idea, I mean, back then was probably very offensive to some, but also hilarious to others. I think what Matt and Trey really stand against is like self-aggrandizing. You know, all these celebrities that they make fun of think they're the most important person in the world,
Yes,
that they're qualified
100%.
to speak on every single topic. When they make fun of Sean Penn and Team America, it's, I've been to Iraq, you know?
Yes, yes.
It's one of my favorite bits. So they kind of exist to serve humble pie to everyone.
They're like the great mediator, essentially, of like, don't get too high on your horse, pretty much, because we're gonna knock you off pretty quickly, I feel like.
Yeah, and then you look at how, you know, how they treated Al Gore in the Man Bear Pig episode, which was hilarious, but then they went back and apologized, and there's like an interview with Al Gore where he talks about South Park, and he gets like raving applause for his answer. And you know, it's like that's one of the few, if not only, times South Park has ever positively
I think it is the only one.
Yeah, positively portrayed a celebrity or apologized to them.
It is kind of insane. I think that's something, like you were saying, with counterculture. People think that South Park has changed. They're like, what happened to South Park making fun of liberals and making fun of, which first of all, they do still do that. Literally 3 episodes ago, they made a whole episode making fun of woke politics and the gender swapping and race swapping in movies. So
yeah, and
that
like
was just,
they made fun of Disney and Kathleen Kennedy.
Yes, exactly.
Put a chick in it, make her gay!
Maybe we should go a different route than we did with Indiana Jones.
Fuck Indiana Jones, put a chick in it and make her name it gay!
I mean, they kind of made fun of both sides if you think about it.
Yeah,
in that one
they did. They also made fun of the people that are just lazily like riding on woke all the time. So again, they'd still make fun of this stuff. The difference is when you are satire is counterculture, as you said. There's this Rob McElhenney on Hot Ones talks about this. The guy from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He talks about what satire means. It's a good clip. He says like satire is inherently counterculture because as soon as you're not counterculture, it's just culture and it's taken at face value. You know, you can't take satire at face value because it's ironic. It's what's the word?
There's more under the hood.
Yes, there's more under the hood than just what you're looking at on the surface. And I think people
Onion is having problems, therefore, right now.
Don't realize that about South Park. When you're satirical, you're counterculture, and when you're counterculture, you are countering the current trends in the culture. So when the culture changes, you're still doing the same thing, you're just pissing off a different group of people than you were previously because the culture has shifted in that direction. So as South Park has been on the air for 27 years now, the culture has shifted quite a few times. In the early 2000s, late 1990s, they were pissing off the puritanical, Bible-thumping Christians, like that American conservative spirit.
Like, whoa, you can't put that on TV.
You can't say fuck on in a movie, like that kind of stuff. Yeah, 100%. The culture shifted then towards tolerance, towards more liberal politics, and then they started targeting, you know, liberals, and that was kind of in the mid-era of the show.
Well, they also, you know, like late 90s, they were doing Clinton era, early 2000s, mid 2000s, they were doing Bush, Team America. They were doing, you know, covering the Iraq War, Afghanistan, all that stuff. They've always been counterculture, and I think they're always going to be counterculture. It's just...
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, if you're getting pissed off by South Park now, I think you kind of just need to look at where you are in the sense of, why am I upset by this? Am I on the, like, am I the one being targeted, or am I...
Or do I need to learn to laugh at myself?
Well, yeah. Do I need to learn how to take a joke is kind of the thing. And it's ironic because a lot of the people nowadays that are getting offended by this are the exact people who have been preaching about how everyone needs to learn how to take a joke for years now. So it's like,
yeah, I thought they made comedy legal again. What the?
Exactly.
You can't get mad at South Park. Comedy's legal.
It's ironic, but anyways, it's counterculture. So just kind of laugh at it. It's just not that serious at the end of the day.
If you take it too seriously, you are playing into their hands. Matt and Trey have one trick, and it's if they can piss you off and get a rise out of you, then that's all they care about.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, I think that about sums sums up this episode, the state of South Park, and how it's being kind of misunderstood. It's always been misunderstood from different angles, and this just feels like another chapter in people condemning the show. Like, this is nothing new for South Park.
Yeah, it's been happening for literally 27 years at this point. So this is nothing new to them. They've always had a lot of people pissed off at them.
We'll see. I mean, if they pissed off the wrong or right people enough, we'll see if they can keep making South Park. But yes, it seems at least that for Matt and Trey, there is some doubt, but I think they're going to be allowed to keep making episodes.
I would like to add on to that. I meant to mention this earlier, but in the episode when I was talking about how it's their quote unquote suicide attempt, when Cartman and Butters are trying to kill themselves, it's with an electric car. So I think it's also kind of them saying, we know we're fine realistically, you know?
Yeah. We're not going to kill ourselves tonight, but
exactly.
All right. Well, I think that about wraps it up. Thank you, Blooms, for coming on to talk about South Park with me. Of course, you guys can check out his channel in the description and pinned comment down below. Great videos. I'm a huge South Park fan, so it's been a lot of fun and an honor to get to talk to you, the South Park guy, about what could be the most important milestone moment in South Park's history.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. Like I said, I've been watching your videos forever now. I'm a huge fan, so it really means a lot.
Appreciate that. Don't forget to like and subscribe, but subscribe to Blooms. All right, everyone, that's all we've got for today. This is the Cartman signing out. Peace. You could say bye too. You could throw a bye in there.
Bye everyone.
Oh.
On July 21st, 2025, Iron Mouse...
How the top VTuber agency got exposed as dystopian nightmare, The Rise and Fall of VShojo by Mugen.
One of the biggest VTubers on the planet would suddenly, and without prior warning, post this video titled Why I Left VShojo, one of the most iconic and recognizable agencies in the industry that she's been with since 2020, so almost 5 years now. It would be in this video that she reveals to the world for the first time ever that VShojo had stolen over $500,000 from her that were meant to go to a charity, something that even a comic book supervillain wouldn't think of doing. But it only got worse from here. Soon enough, you'd have previous and current talents of VShojo, as well as some other very prominent VTubers in the industry, reveal to us how VShojo was behind the scenes, how they were mistreated, and how this once iconic company was nothing more than a facade, hiding behind it an extremely toxic and disastrous management that was leading it. But some of these crazy revelations, these bombshells that these VTuber talents were telling us, occurred years ago, making us revisit past controversies and incidents that this company was in and see it from a completely different perspective now with this new added context. This is why, in order to truly understand the depth of this catastrophe, I had no choice but to go back to the absolute beginning, even before VShojo was founded, even talking about the origins of its CEO, Gunrun. And this 2-hour video is the result of that. We're going to be going through all the major lows and highs of VShojo all the way to its very violent and sudden death. I say this with no exaggeration. This is the biggest VTuber related controversy in history, and it's not even close. So without further ado, let's talk about it. The dot-com crash was a catastrophic financial incident that took place in the US around the year 2000. You see, the World Wide Web had been introduced in the early 1990s, and early adopters would quickly understand that this was going to change life as we know it. So all of a sudden, the word internet held a lot of weight. I mean, this was going to change the world. So obviously, if a company was going to operate on that internet, then it was going to be a part of this new world order that stands to be very profitable. This is when investors would decide to throw stacks of cash at any company claiming to operate on the internet. There was truly no need to dive into any specifics about how they were operating, their costs, and how they planned to make money. Just the fact that they were on the internet meant that they were going to be successful because this was going to change the world. Soon enough, the word internet would lose all meaning, becoming a buzzword like AI is in 2025. If a company claims to have AI in their product, then their stock skyrockets in a day. It's ridiculous. And so, after years of euphoria and investing in anything internet related, investors would realize at the end of 2000 that many of these businesses weren't even generating any revenue. They literally had no way to make money. So everyone started panic selling at the same time, causing the bubble to literally burst. The majority of these companies went extinct and very few survived. This would actually be quite similar to what happened with live streaming websites, although on an extremely smaller scale and not affecting any global financial institutions. I mean, have you ever heard of the website BattleCam? No? Well, that's normal, but don't bother Googling it because it doesn't even have a Wikipedia page. But at the time when it was founded in the early 2000s, it had a proper community and a sizable amount of streamers, competing against each other in challenges in order to win cash prizes. And while the majority of things related to this website were lost to history, one of the only things we still have left is a clip of Keemstar crying when he was shown a picture of how bad his balding had become. And speaking of Keemstar, in this now very infamous clip, he would start off his rant saying, "F this, I'm on Block TV with my hands up," referring to yet another streaming website that was lost to history. In the early 2000s, there were so many of these, but unfortunately, 99% of these websites would cease to exist, and many would be lost to history, except one in particular. Justin.tv. It was founded in the year 2007 and was named after its founder, Justin Kan. But initially, you couldn't even stream on the website. Only Justin could. Its entire purpose was centered around Justin and him live streaming his entire life. He called it live casting. Today, we call it IRL streaming. And when I say that he would stream everything, I mean it. I mean, this is him sleeping right here. And during this interview, he's literally live with his apparatus that he made himself. Eventually, this trend of live casting would catch on, and Justin TV would allow anyone to create an account and broadcast themselves live to, well, a group of strangers. And as the platform continued to grow beyond anyone's expectations, in 2011 it would come up with a decision that would change everything forever: the creation of Twitch.tv, a separate website from Justin.tv that was not only centered on just live streaming, but more specifically centered on live streaming video games. But early on, after Twitch.tv had been created, the best way I could describe how the website functioned was more like a Discord server, in the sense that everyone kind of knew each other. Everyone knew who the most prominent streamers were, but more importantly, Twitch staff was very approachable. They'd always be in someone's chat, making the streamers feel like they were really part of a community. And at the time, what really differentiated Twitch from other websites was their global emotes. You could use these in any streamer's chat and you wouldn't have to pay a single thing. But what was really interesting here is that many of the early emotes were inside jokes that only people on the website would understand. One form of these inside jokes was creating emotes out of Twitch staff in funny pictures, like this one right here by the name of Anele. This was one of the earliest employees at Twitch. And another emote that you'd find that was based on a staff member as well was the gun run emote. What made this emote special is that whenever you saw a streamer encounter some sort of technical difficulty, the chat would start spamming it as a way to summon Gun Run himself, the staff member that the emote was based on. He was seen as a genius who understood live streaming like no one else. In fact, when Business Insider went to Twitch to visit their office and create an article on the people who work there, the first image you're greeted with when you click on the article is Gun Run himself, sitting on his desk, smiling. This is how Business Insider would describe him, saying, "Justin the Gun Run Ignacio went from esports fanboy to streaming guru by the time he was 21. Twitch hired him out of college to help run thousands thousands of simultaneous video streams and orchestrate the tech for its signature tournaments. In 2013, Forbes named Ignacio in its 30 under 30 games list. So yeah, no big deal. This guy was just kind of a genius. He'd be single-handedly helping Twitch run these massive streams of hundreds of thousands of viewers watching tournaments from Dota 2 and League of Legends, for example. And additionally, he was in the Forbes 30 under 30 list for 2014, which is a list made up of 30 people who are under the age of 30 that have been a huge influence in their respective industry. Not bad for a 21-year-old. But if that wasn't enough, he was also taking Justin Kan's vision to the next level, creating a backpack filled to the brim with technology that could withstand streaming IRL at high resolution with no interruptions. He called it the Gunrun IRL Backpack. Overall, as time would go by, Twitch and its staff would get a lot of attention. Forbes would be calling it the ESPN of video games. It seemed unstoppable. So much so that even Amazon took notice and eventually bought the website for $970 million on August 26, 2014, making its founders very rich, but also ending its tight-knit culture centered around staff and streamers, transforming it into a very corporatized company. After this buyout, Gunrun would keep working at Twitch for the next few years. He would also keep developing his Gunrun IRL backpack and would create the company Unlimited IRL that sells these backpacks straight up to streamers who want to stream IRL with high quality and no interruptions. And while I'm sure his life was going good and he was achieving things that he found fulfilling, there would come a time where his life, and pretty much almost every human's life, would change forever, making many of us divert to places that we never thought we'd end up in. And that would be none other than the COVID 2020 pandemic. During the pandemic, many people were isolated and couldn't do much outside. This meant that for many, in order to stay sane to some degree, they had to keep themselves entertained, and the only way to do that was through the internet. This completely skewed the numbers on so many things, Genshin Impact being an example, launching at the end of 2020 and getting so many players that it had made over $1 billion in under 6 months. But video games wouldn't be the only thing that would go up in numbers substantially. Entertainment of all kinds would skyrocket, including streaming. This also included a fairly new genre of streaming, which was VTubing. You see, the pioneer of VTubing was none other than Kizuna Ai, starting her activities at the end of 2016. Unlike Hatsune Miku, which is a virtual being run by a team of people and a corporation, Kizuna Ai was actually a person, except that person was using a virtual avatar to express themselves. And even though she was a streamer, much of her brand was centered around the Japanese idol template. She wasn't just a streamer, she could sing and she could perform. She behaved like an idol, and the expectations of an idol were laid upon her shoulders. But for years to come after 2016, VTubing would really remain a very Japanese-centric form of entertainment. This would change in 2020 when many content creators and, well, many people in general would start using VR chat in order to combat isolation. Seeing so many people express themselves through avatars would make the idea of a VTuber way less weird than it used to be. This would contribute to how VTubing would start to all of a sudden blow up beyond proportion. But of course, the ones that would benefit the most and the quickest would be the two biggest VTuber corporations on the planet, both based in Japan and already possessing a big established talent roster. They would go by the names of Hololive and Nijisanji. They were absolutely dominating streaming in ways that people could have never imagined. And to give you an idea of just how much VTubing had blown up, when Nijisanji first went public on the Japanese stock market, it was valued at $1.1 billion. Yes, a VTuber agency valued at $1.1 billion. These are not rookie numbers by any means. VTubing was very hard to ignore at that point. So much so that even popular streamers that would have never delved into this before saw the potential and tried to do some VTubing themselves, trying to snatch a piece of that pie. Look, it was safe to say that by that point, there was global demand for VTubers. It wasn't centered on Japan anymore. And while that was really exciting, it also kind of came with a problem. Ever since Kizuna Ai, VTubers were seen like idols. So these Japanese idol expectations came with being a VTuber when you worked for these two corporations. This meant that they owned everything, even your model. If you were to graduate, which is a Japanese idol way to say retire, then you wouldn't get to keep your model. You would lose your entire identity because it belongs to the corporation. Additionally, it was cool to see these corporations expand to English-speaking talent, but even though this industry was blowing up, there was no real agency in the West. Gunrun would see this as clear as day, which is why on November 24th, 2020, he would announce the creation of the talent agency VShojo, a San Francisco-based VTuber talent agency with its main goal being centered around talent freedom. allowing any talent that chooses to leave the company in the future to retain their full IP and model, as well as their brand in general. He would co-found this company with Mountain Dew, who was a content creator, and would hold the post of Chief Marketing Officer at VShojo, and Daniel Sanders, which would be their third and final co-founder. He would hold the position of Chief Operating Officer and would sometimes act as the Chief Financial Officer. Now, what really made VShojo special was the fact that their founding members were already very well established in the VTubing community as independent VTubers. This was completely different from corporations like Nijisanji and Hololive, with every talent starting from scratch with a new identity when they were hired there. Here you had 7 very prominent VTubers carrying over their identity into VShojo and having their already substantial communities follow them. The founding members were Nyaners, Zentreya, Iron Mouse, Silverveil.
How can you fuck up saying Nyaners? Nyaners. Nyaners. Come on. Nyaners. Trainer, Silverveil, Project Motia.
Project Melody, Apricot Fruit, and Himehajime. A few months later, they would also add Veibe to their roster, another independent VTuber with a substantial community. This wasn't just another VTuber agency. This was one that had the potential to not only revolutionize the VTubing industry as we knew it, but to also compete head-to-head with the big two, which were Hololive and Nijisanji, without being a Japanese corporation. And I mean, why wouldn't they? They had the genius Forbes 30 Under 30 CEO, and they had top-tier talent, some of the best in the industry. It normally should have been smooth sailing from here, but unfortunately, barely a year after being established, VShojo would face a monumental controversy that would significantly stain its reputation in the VTubing industry. Nuxtaku is a content creator turned VTuber that heavily benefited from the VTuber boom of the pandemic. He was one of the first independent VTubers to ever reach 2 million subscribers on YouTube, and his most successful content would be centered on collaborations, anime critiques, and of course, Mr. Beast style content in which he would donate to people on Twitch in order to get them to do challenges. His rise to fame was very quick. He practically knew everyone in the VTuber industry, and he had a very mutually beneficial relationship with VShojo talents, collaborating with them on many occasions, and by that point be making content with them quite regularly. However, on October 20th, 2021, to everyone's surprise, he would tweet this out, saying, "Someone is trying to dox VTubers by masquerading as VShojo. I can't say more at this time, but please share this around and be careful. They tried to dox me, but I sniffed them out and gave them wrong info, so don't worry about me. I spoke to the CEO of VShojo and I'm trying to untangle everything. I'll update you when I can." You see, VShojo's domain was vshojo.com, that's what they used for their emails. But there was someone impersonating VShojo staff sending emails to VTubers under the vshojo.org domain, hoping to gain their trust and doxing them, uncovering their real names, addresses, and eventually swatting them. Now, Nux was already quite popular. He would have many people try to dox him, he already knew what to do. Unfortunately though, that doesn't apply to everyone. A smaller VTuber by the name of Saki Nightshade would tweet this out around the same time, saying, "Today may have been the most exciting day I've had in a couple of years. Holy fuck, my emotions are off the charts right now, what a day. Unfortunately, I don't think I can elaborate, which makes me extremely sad." She then goes on to say, "Alright, so what I can say is that I've been contacted for something amazing, and if all goes well, it could be truly life-changing. If that doesn't answer questions, I'm so sorry, I'd like to not say anything else about it." So that person, posing as VShojo staff under the vshojo.org domain, had sent an email to Saki saying, "We want to recruit you to VShojo," raising her hopes up and demanding personal information, which she gave. The day after, she would tweet this out, saying, "Well, the group of people who've targeted Nyaners and leaked her info earlier have my info and sent the cops to my door earlier. They're threatening to do more. Other than the threats to leak my info, they aren't saying much else. I guess I should have figured it'd be too good to be true. Oh well, not much can be done." And we can see Nux in the replies saying, "DM me please." So that was the situation. Very messy, very tricky, and and very nasty. And Saki gave out a very important piece of information. The group of people targeting her were the same people who had doxed an important member of VShojo, Nyaners, earlier, leaking some of her personal information, but at this point we didn't know just how much. 11 days later, Nux would tweet, "The last 10 days were the most insane of my life. No words could describe how appreciative I am of you and the friends I've made here. Can't wait until I show you everything. I'm changing the game, boy." Teasing something that was in the works. Over the next few weeks, he would keep teasing something that was about to release, and on November 22nd, almost a month after he had received that phishing email, he would tweet out, "Recently, there was a group of doxers that have been harassing VTubers and swatting them by impersonating VShojo. We spent the last month tracking them down. Please share this video." With the video being titled, "I caught a swatter that doxed 12 VTubers, myself included." In it, he would talk about how the email scam worked, how Saki Nightshade was affected, and then would go on to give us information that we didn't know about, which is how 12 VTubers got doxed when we only knew of 2, and how Nux had gained footage of the doxer in a call with a bunch of friends because one of those friends happened to be a Nux fan and was willing to backstab the doxer. And finally, he would specify that that doxer was facing jail time, and if anyone had the same idea of doxing VTubers, they would end up in handcuffs as well. Additionally, when the video was initially posted, VShojo themselves, their official page, had replied saying, "Thank you Nux for working with us, we've added our own response to the events," specifying that during this, no information was breached from VShojo, and that the fake domain was taken down. It was never going to be used for harmful things ever again. Overall, it seemed like Nux had taken the time to make a detailed video of the events, and that VShojo as an agency not only approved of it, but was able to get through this thanks to this cooperation. So imagine the shock when all of a sudden, almost every single VTuber talent at VShojo would speak out against the video and tell the world how disappointed they are in Nux for releasing it. This same sentiment would of course be echoed by their communities, and it had reached a point where Nux was forced to make a response, tweeting RE cybersecurity/doxing incident, read, linking a twit longer. And before we even get to the twit longer, on this post you can see VShojo members stating publicly how disappointed they were with Nux and his actions. Iron Mouse would say that she was so disappointed and hurt that he was doing this when he full well knew what was truly going on. "We asked you to take it down, we told you we feared for our safety and you didn't care." Fruit would say, "Asking for you to take it down because I felt my safety was in trouble and for you to go to the company and ask for numerous terms and conditions in return, that's not friendship." Silverveil, Vey, Zentrea, Hime, and Melody would all echo the same statement, publicly announcing that not only were they disappointed with Nux, but that he was a liar, a clout chaser, and someone that didn't care about any of his friends at VShojo. With Hime saying that the girls had begged for days for this video to be removed out of fear for their safety, and Project Melody saying, "He flagrantly disregarded our team's feelings and the facts our security department shared with him." But the biggest response was from Nyaners, who wrote a huge message in her Discord denouncing Nux's actions and expressing how disappointed she was with what he did, saying, "Didn't want to have to type out something stressful like this on what was supposed to be a chill Sunday and my only day off so far this week, but I do not condone the video that Nux has released where he postures himself as our savior and seemingly takes credit for pretty much an entire year's worth of painstaking work done by VShojo's cybersecurity team. I would know that it took that long and took that much work since I was one of the people who unfortunately had to work with them, and I'm incredibly thankful for their help. Whether or not any of the information he gathered helped or not is beside the point, as releasing a video like he did about a very sensitive and potentially dangerous situation that involves me and many of my friends only draws unneeded attention to it for some quick views, when if a video were to be made about this at all, it should have been handled with a lot more care and consideration. But for someone like Nux, who has consistently used my friends for clickbait views and has done things like try to bait my friend into watching the Logan Paul Suicide Forest video on stream, and secretly recorded a private call with another one of my friends without permission and then proceeded to use said call to make a video, it's clear that our safety or feelings about any of this is not the priority. The past year was hell for me due to the situation, and it's straight up painful to see it being used in a video like this that doesn't treat the issue carefully at all. A video that he was even told not to release since it could potentially be harmful to us and many other VTubers who were targeted. Responding publicly draws even more attention to it, so I have to choose between sitting quietly and seeing him receive pats on the back for coming to our rescue when his video could encourage even more harassment, or calling him out and hoping he retracts what he said and takes the video down before it gains more traction. If he wanted to actually protect people, he could have made a general PSA video about how to keep your information safe online, or warn people about things like the fake VShojo email situation in a way that didn't reveal a ton of unneeded sensitive information and paint himself as a hero. He doesn't care about helping us. If he did, he would have listened to several of our concerns when it came to how he treats people and uses them for content. This video ultimately makes things worse for us. Anything for views though, I guess. My heart goes out to anyone else who was affected by any harassment, and please be careful with giving out your information online. So obviously this was one hell of a statement. This wasn't just about Nux releasing a video that the talents at VShojo didn't want released. It seems like they've had a problem with him for a long time with how he uses them for content. None of this had ever been talked about publicly, and it came as a shock. I mean, these people collabed all the time. It seemed like they were friends. Nux, on the other hand, would keep his statements shorter than Nyanner's, but would still manage to drop some pretty big bombshells, saying, "This has been a stressful week for many, and I'm confident and proud of the community and the efforts that went towards resolving things efficiently. My latest video concerned someone that was maliciously impersonating VShojo, and managed to trick individuals into giving personal information and doxing themselves and getting swatted. With the efforts of everyone involved, I believe this situation can be put behind us, with the culprit behind these attacks having been brought to light. I do still fully stand by the need for raising awareness of phishing scams. I'm incredibly glad VShojo released a very well constructed cybersecurity statement addressing the situation, and you should all read it. In regards to my video, I worked with VShojo on this for a while, as they mentioned in their statement in response to my video. I did show them my video before posting it, and I was not requested to refrain from uploading. The rumors that I had posted it regardless of being asked not to are untrue. In fact, leading up to the events of posting it, I was a part of a 4-hour conversation with their chief cybersecurity officer, overseen by an executive of VShojo and one of the members of the group. I sincerely apologize if my actions have caused any undue stress on anyone. It was not my intention. I was only hoping to contribute to keeping the community safe. With every statement someone would make during this incident, things would somehow make less sense. But regardless, for now, Nux did mention that VShojo released a very well constructed cybersecurity statement addressing the situation. It was actually released just a few hours before this twitlonger, and it would be after they stealthily deleted their reply to his initial video tweet. But that's not all. This new cybersecurity statement had a completely different tone from that first reply. They would say things like, VShojo does not endorse any statements or views by parties that have no official affiliation to VShojo, adding, the methods used to attack the other VTubers were confirmed to be unrelated to phishing and impersonating VShojo. As mentioned before, the fake domain was created on October 14th, 2021 and survived for less than a week, and the other VTubers incidents happened outside of this time window. As mentioned before, thanks to partners, VShojo confirms there are only 2 victims of this campaign, referring to both Nux and Saki Nightshade. Things were getting very weird. It's like they were completely discrediting the person they were congratulating when the video came out. But things only got weirder from here. After VShojo had released their official cybersecurity statement, Nyanner's would have this to say in her Discord. VShojo was forced into making a statement on the matter after asking him repeatedly not to release this video. They had to issue corrections to the video since he would not, and there were several inaccuracies within the video, and had to word the statement carefully to not anger his large following and make us a target for even more harassment. I feel especially backed into a corner as I'm afraid to say anything even more publicly than I already am because I know it would invite more hate. I'm exhausted of pissing people off and having them hurl threats and shit at me and my family members constantly, so saying anything about this is scary for me. It sucks and I don't know what to do. Nux chose to release the video knowing that VShojo did not want him to and told him it was a horribly bad idea. Myself and my family members experienced heavy harassment pretty much all year, and the entire situation had to be kept a secret, and I had to continue on as normal, acting happy even when I was terrified so that I would not draw more attention to them and encourage them. Now he releases a video making everything public like this in a way that is careless and dangerous to many people. It's mind-boggling to me. It's like making a video about how to make a bomb and showing it to a bunch of 12-year-olds. I don't want anyone to go and harass him or threaten him in any way. Please do not do anything like that. I just wanted to be able to finally say something because Cat's out of the bag anyway, and I'm also tired of sitting and watching him do fucked up things to my friends. So far you probably are confused as hell, and that's normal because everyone was at the time. How is it that the official VShojo account had given its stamp of approval to Nux and thanked him for working with them when the talents were so clearly against the idea of a video? Something simply wasn't adding up at all. Something was missing, a big piece of the puzzle, and no one really knew what the hell it was. At this point though, Nux as a target was fair game. According to every VShojo talent, he had done something horrendous. So of course, just like with any cancellation, other people started piling up on him, talking about their bad experiences with him. And very few people actually took a step back and said, hey guys, listen, maybe we're going a bit too far here. Maybe we don't have all the facts. The situation was getting so critical that Nux had to release a formal apology. But in this apology video, he would show Discord logs between him and the cybersecurity expert that VShojo had hired. Phoenix. He would reveal that these logs were in a group chat with one of the VShojo girls and Gunrun, the CEO. In these logs, you could see that Nux was working on a video and Phoenix was fully aware of it. But instead of telling him, please don't post this, you're putting our talents in danger, he would be sent a draft of the video and he'd say this: not trying to downplay or anything, I really appreciate that you were providing info at 7:03. Do you think you'd be willing to blur out the word blank from the screenshot for the purposes of denying them notoriety? To which Nux said, okay, I can do that. Phoenix would then say, I appreciate that you are doing the public service announcement and that isn't the problem at all. My comment is narrowly specifically about praising that one fan that reached out. I am 99% certain that is a fellow member of the harassment gang and not a fan. So Phoenix's problem wasn't the video at all. He was completely down with the idea. He just thought that that fan who had leaked the doxer to Nux was actually part of the harassment gang and Nux was being socially engineered. At some point, Nux would say, honestly, I think this video will be helpful to you as well. If you need help with anything, feel free to reach out. To which Phoenix would say, thanks a lot. Would you be willing to include a link to a written response by us as well? It's not going to be anything against the video. It's going to be more about making sure people don't think that contract language is real and answer some likely FAQs that will result from all this. To which Nux said, of course. And of course, as you can see, this was their reply that they had deleted shortly afterwards. This video added even more confusion to the whole situation, because from these logs, it seemed like two people were working together and the CEO was very well aware of it, and one of the girls that had called Nux out publicly was in this group chat seeing everything, very well aware of the fact that he was going to post this video. And thanks to Fruit leaking her DMs with Nux at some point on Twitter, she would accidentally reveal who that VShojo talent was.
Come on, let's go find some drama.
And it would turn out to be Project Melody. In these DMs, we can see Fruit and Nux arguing, and at some point Nux says, I'm not sure what you mean. I had a group chat with Melody, Gunrun, and their head cybersecurity guy, and I showed them the video beforehand. They had a few notes, which I changed before uploading, and they asked me to link a statement they would write in the description. But that's so weird. As you saw earlier, Melody had posted a tweet calling him out, saying, I'm hurt Nux posted his doxing vid. He flagrantly disregarded our team's feelings and the facts our security department shared with him. I trusted and defended him, only to feel secondary to getting clicks. If he meant to raise awareness to protect streamers, he would have corrected it. But she, as well as Gunrun and Phoenix, were in a call with Nux for 4 hours. This wasn't just confusion anymore, someone was lying here. After these DMs would leak thanks to Fruit, Project Melody would delete her tweet because of the hate she would start getting. And shortly afterwards, apologies would start raining in. Fruit would say, Nux apologized to me privately yesterday as I apologized to him for subtweeting, and others would follow suit. Except one person in particular who was practically seen as the biggest backstabber in all this, Project Melody. She didn't make any public statements or apologies regarding this incident, and as far as we know, did not do so privately either. Nux has never mentioned this. It was especially weird since Nux had collabed with her the most out of anyone in VShojo, and they've had a multi-year friendship. But by that point, the drama had been going on for quite a while now. The talents clearly just wanted to move on and get back to creating content, and it seemed like the community was heading in that direction too. But as things were finally starting to heal, Gunrun would make it a point to post this article on Medium.com saying, addressing miscommunications, I hope this clears the air on the confusion, let's move forward together and not spread hate. This would be an article attempting to show that VShojo already knew about the security accusations, did not condone Nux in any way, and was always behind their talents, while of course acknowledging some wrongdoings in the process. But they would refute the allegation that VShojo gave Nux approval to release his video, saying that the reality is that VShojo never at any point said that he had permission, nor were we asked. VShojo was given limited time to suggest edits and create a statement. Politeness in Twitter reply text was misconstrued as approval/endorsement. Suggestions for edits were ignored beyond blurring of some names, and Phoenix makes efforts to educate Nux on why this is a bad move, which are ignored. But this wasn't just it. Gunrun also added more fuel to the fire by saying, staff's context. There is a negative history of interaction between VShojo and Nux that led us to proceed with extreme caution. Something that had yet again come out of nowhere because, as I said earlier, people were under the impression that they were all friends. Gunrun would then post the full conversations that Nux had shown in his video, and in the first one it would be Phoenix imploring Nux not to fall for the bait of that one fan who reached out to him because it's not random. Their MO is to do this good cop, bad cop thing, but Nux wasn't having any of it. He was convinced it was a fan, he wasn't being socially engineered at any point. This showed us that Nux was stubborn, and even though he understood some aspects of doxing, was very naive. Sure, but never at any point in time did Phoenix express that he didn't want Nux to release the video, only sending him timestamps to change things. Gunrun would conclude this by saying, "We hope clearing the air here with our context helps put this drama behind all of us. I'm understanding of Nux's stance and hope our detailing from our side helps put everything into context. We do not wish to see this matter escalate further. Do not send hate or harassment to anyone. We're looking forward to continuing work as usual and hope all fandoms can see the many perspectives of this complicated interaction between VShojo and Nux. Thanks everyone for reading. Gunrun." Of course, as is the trend with this controversy, people were left even more confused after reading this. When you say something like, "Thank you, Nux, for working with us," how is that not a way of you saying that you approve of the video? It just didn't make any sense. Finally, Nux would post a video titled "Moving Forward" on his second channel and would detail how throughout the entire week of him releasing the video, he was barely sleeping, having anxiety attacks, and overall really showing us that no one here, including the VShojo talents, had a good time. But even though I'm sure many people were hoping that things would die down there were still way too many questions surrounding this whole incident. A lot of things simply didn't make any sense, causing many YouTubers like Turkey Tom to make videos about this whole mystery surrounding this incident and garnering over 1.2 million views. People weren't satisfied with how this concluded, and you can see that the top reply on Gunrun's post to Medium was Omni saying, "At least apologize to the dude? He got dragged for the past 2 days, and the deleted thank you tweet made it even worse. Nux took accountability, only fair to do the same, methinks." People had many theories as to what had happened, how this miscommunication could have occurred. One of the most common ones that was even mentioned in Turkey Tom's video about the situation was that Nux Taku was in the process of founding his own VTuber agency at the time. VShojo's management saw this as a threat, so they took the opportunity to character assassinate him in public, making him seem very problematic and making other VTubers not want to associate with him. Now look, I'll admit, when I first heard this theory, I thought, come on, this is way too far-fetched. But you have to remember that the VTubing scene back then was so much smaller than it is today. And Nux was at the absolute top. The guy had 2 million subscribers as a VTuber. He knew everyone in the scene. No one didn't know who he was. He could have so easily made an agency that directly competed with VShojo. But would VShojo's management, as well as Project Melody, his friend of multiple years, truly stoop this low in order to take down a potential competitor? Honestly, as someone who's covered the VTubing industry for a while now, that's not even the craziest thing I heard this week. But I think if we're going to take a more realistic approach with all the evidence we currently have, then what most likely happened is that VShojo was totally down with the idea of letting Nux post the video. This tweet was sincere. However, when management saw how much this pissed off the talent, how they were completely against the idea of this video, they did a full 180, deleted the tweet, and backstabbed Nux into being the fall guy so that they wouldn't piss off their talents. When reading Nyanner's messages, it seemed like she had a very strong negative impression of Nux, saying things like, "He doesn't care about helping us. If he did, he would have listened to several of our concerns when it came to how he treats people and uses them for content." Something echoed by other VShojo talents when it came to criticizing him. It seemed like someone was getting some very wrong information, and maybe Nux wasn't the only victim here, the talents were too, they just had no idea. Regardless though, back then, no one really bothered delving that deep, instead preferring to go either Team Nux or Team VShojo, with Team Nux claiming that Nux had done nothing wrong, that he was the victim here, and with Team VShojo being convinced that Nux is a clout chaser that doesn't care about anyone but himself. The whole thing would truly stain VShojo's reputation and show them as unprofessional. How could they ever compete with the likes of Hololive when they never had such weird petty drama? How could they compete with Nijisanji when none of the talents would ever dare to make a public statement criticizing another VTuber like that? Maybe talent freedom was a mistake. With just one controversy, VShojo had gone from hopeful contender to yet another talent agency that could never compete with the professionalism of Japan. But hey, while this would definitely be damaging to their reputation and be brought up multiple times by haters in the future, the internet has very short-term memory. Give it 1 or 2 weeks and even the most major dramas get forgotten. And so after 2021 had ended, VShojo had somewhat been able to put itself back on the map in a very strong way. During 2022, Ironmouse, a VTuber under VShojo, would grow so quickly that even the mainstream outside of the VTubing community was made aware of her existence. On February 5th, 2022, she would hold her first ever subathon, streaming for 30 days straight and garnering over 171,000 Twitch subscribers. That equates to over $850,000 before Twitch takes their cut. Articles like this were being written about her, saying that she was breaking all kinds of Twitch records. By that point, you'd see people who didn't even know what VTubing was hearing about Ironmouse's success. And if you didn't, well, VShojo made it a goal to make you hear about her and every other talent in the roster, enlisting Crunchyroll to interview every single one of them while having them talk about their favorite animes of all time. But that's not all. When it came to VTuber related awards, the Vishoujo girls were dominating, with the Streamy Awards having 5 nominees and 4 of them being from Vishoujo. That's not all though, because the Streamer Awards would have 4 nominees and 3 of them would end up being from Vishoujo. They wouldn't win that year, but it was still very notable. But regardless, the efforts of these talents, including Iron Mouse's very successful subathon, the Vishoujo girls being nominated practically everywhere, and Vishoujo's efforts to make marketing a priority ended up being somewhat of a success, because the CEO was able to raise over $11 million for the company. More specifically, during seed funding led by Athos Capital with participation from GFR Funds and Green Bay Ventures. Yes, Vishoujo, a VTuber talent agency, had somehow secured an 8-figure funding round from Venture Capital, infamously known for wanting to get their money back no matter what, and also only known to invest in companies with long-term growth potential. They didn't just invest in anything, which made many believe, well, shit, Vishoujo must be doing something right compared to other agencies because wow, that's very impressive. And Gunrun, of course, with this announcement showed huge confidence, saying VTubers are the future of the content creator industry, adding, since the medium is built upon animated personas, it is more accessible and scalable than being a traditional creator, especially as the technology becomes more widespread. With the funding from Anthos Capital, we are now in a better position to support and grow talent in this market with more innovative technology, extensive promotion, and the ability to assist with content creation and distribution. So this money was going to go towards specifically growing their existing talent roster, pretty much any VTuber's dream at the time. And speaking of VTubers, a few months after raising $11 million, Vishoujo would add 2 more talents to its roster, marking their first major expansion since recruiting Veibe in 2021, adding both Keisan and Amamiya Nazuna to their roster. And what made these talents special is that they were based in Japan and spoke Japanese most of the time on their streams, showing us that Vishoujo wasn't just interested in English speakers, they were interested in this talent-first approach globally. With
Yeah, alright. That's going to be it for the stream. Good luck, Panther.